All right, let's dive right in. We're going to talk about this incredible story of how a small team of innovators, basically a rebel alliance, tried to save the Pentagon from itself. And they were armed with, well, not much more than a Silicon Valley mindset and a direct order to break the rules.
And that question? It's not just some thought experiment. No, it gets to the absolute heart of this slow burn crisis that was threatening America's military edge. We're talking about a situation where the most powerful military on Earth was, literally in danger of becoming a museum of old tech.
So, to really get why this rebellion even had to happen, you first have to understand the empire it was up against, and just how badly it was failing. See, the problem wasn't just one bad piece of gear, it was a total systemic collapse of innovation.
Okay, so picture this. It's 2006. You're U.S. Air Force Captain Raj Shah. You're strapped into the cockpit of an F-16 Viper, one of the most advanced jets in the world, right? Flies at twice the speed of sound. You're on a critical combat mission over the Iraq-Iran border. But you have a huge, huge problem.
So what's the problem? Well, the jet's multi-million-dollar navigation system was so ancient it didn't even have a moving map. I mean, think about that. You could fly into enemy airspace and not even realize it. So what does he do? He MacGyvers a solution. He takes a $300 Compaq iPAQ, basically an old-school PDA, loads it up with some civilian software, and straps it to his knee. And get this, that little off-the-shelf gadget was way better than the $30 million jet's own system.
And look, this wasn't just some one-off thing. Fast forward a decade, and things were actually worse. The Pentagon was literally running life-for-death operations against ISIS using software that was older than the officers using it. The gap between Silicon Valley and the military wasn't a gap anymore. It was a canyon.
And for all those brilliant startups in Silicon Valley, trying to work with the Pentagon was a nightmare. They had to navigate what everyone called the Valley of Death. It's this place where great ideas and new tech just went to die. We're talking 1,300-page regulations, contract negotiations that took a year and a half. It was basically designed to crush innovation. Good ideas just couldn't make it through alive.
So, you've got this total gridlock, this complete mess. And then a new leader steps in, and he sparks a rebellion with a pretty radical idea. What if we could build a bridge across that Valley of Death?
That leader was the new Secretary of Defense, Ash Carter. And as a physicist, he really got the tech side of things, and he saw the danger. His big idea was to create DIUX, the Defense Innovation Unit Experimental. Think of it like an embassy for the Pentagon, right in the heart of Silicon Valley. A small, fast-moving team that could find the best commercial tech and get it to the troops. Like, now.
But, well, the first try, it was a total train wreck. DUX 1.0 was buried like 3 layers deep in the bureaucracy, so it had zero power. They housed it in some forgotten wing of a sleepy National Guard armory that nobody could even find. And crucially, it couldn't actually sign any deals quickly. It was basically set up to fail from the start.
So what does Carter do? He hits the big red reset button. He reboots the whole thing as DIU 2.0. And to lead it, he brings in 2 young guys, both in their 30s. First, you've got Raj Shah. Yep, the same pilot who hacked his own F-16 with a PDA. And then Chris Kirkhoff, a Pentagon insider who knew all the secret passages in that bureaucratic labyrinth.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. These guys, they don't just say yes. They come back with a list of demands, a term sheet. They basically said, we'll do it, but only if we report directly to you, Mr. Secretary, only if we control our own budget and hiring, and here's the kicker. We need waiver authority. That meant they could just bypass the stupid rules that were killing everything. It was in essence a license to break the system from the very top.
Okay, so the rebels have their charter. A new hope, right? But you know how this story goes. The Empire strikes back. And the bureaucracy's counterattack was swift, and it was brutal.
Literally 2 days after they launched this big new thing, they get a phone call. Turns out, a couple of powerful congressional staffers had just zeroized their budget for the next fiscal year. Just poof, gone, all of it. Their funding was completely wiped out. I mean, the rebellion was basically strangled in its crib.
And you want to know why? It's almost unbelievable. It was all about petty grudges. One staffer was mad because DIU wasn't going to spend any money in Indiana. And the other guy, Ed, was getting payback because the Secretary of Defense wouldn't give him a ride on a government jet. Seriously? That's it? That's how the Empire strikes back? Not with some grand battle, but with a spiteful little budget cut.
So what do? Well, this is where the team got really, really smart. They knew they couldn't win a political fight in Washington. So instead, they went to an active war zone to prove their model, to show their value where it was literally life or death.
All right, check this out. This is the Air Operations Center in Qatar. It's the nerve center for the air war against ISIS. And on the left, you see the old way of doing things. You have a dozen airmen standing in front of a giant whiteboard with markers, spending a combined 60 hours every single day just trying to figure out the flight plans for refueling tankers. It was slow, it was inefficient, and it was dangerous.
So DIUX comes in and builds a simple little software app. They called it the Gonculator, and the results were just staggering. It took that 60-hour daily task and did it in 60 seconds. Let that sink in. 60 hours down to 60 seconds. The app costs $1.5 million, which sounds like a lot, but it saved over $5 million a week. It literally paid for itself in 3 days.
Okay, but here's the craziest part of the story. You'd think everyone would be thrilled, right? Wrong. The huge multi-billion-dollar program office that was in charge of the old, clunky system, they tried to shut the Gonculator down. They saw this cheap, fast, effective solution not as a miracle, but as a threat to their giant budget and their jobs.
The only reason that app survived is because the commander on the ground, General Harrigan, showed it to one of Senator John McCain's aides. And when the aide asked the general what he thought about the old, inefficient program, he was blunt. He said, "It's time to kill that thing." McCain got involved, protected DIUX, and made sure the better technology actually won the day.
And that one victory, for that one little app, ended up being so much more than just a win. It was the proof of concept. It was the crack in the dam that would start to change the entire future of warfare.
See, the success of the Gonculator led directly to something called Kessel Run, which is now an entire software factory inside the Air Force, all built on these same agile principles. And that, in turn, threw the doors wide open for tech startups like Anduril and Palantir to become huge defense contractors. It proved that this model worked.
If you want to see the ultimate proof, just look at what's happening in Ukraine today. It's basically the DIU concept playing out at a massive scale. You've got soldiers using cheap DJI drones to direct artillery. You have SpaceX's Starlink providing battlefield communications. Palantir's AI is sifting through data. It's the whole idea in action. Small, cheap, adaptable commercial tech outmaneuvering a huge, slow, conventional military.
So at the end of the day, what this whole underdog journey shows us is that yes, innovation is possible, even inside a beast like the Pentagon. But, and this is a big but, it only happens when you have the right people with the right kind of authority and the absolute will to fight for it every single step of the way.
You know, if DIUX taught us anything, it's that the sound of breaking glass is the melody of progress. And that's really the whole story, isn't it? Sometimes to build something better, faster, and smarter, you have to be willing to break the old system. The real question now is, can that melody of progress play loud enough and fast enough to keep up with the threats we're going to face tomorrow?